Hey friends, welcome back to the Light Up Your Metabolism podcast. Today we have a very special episode for you. And this episode is actually an airing of my interview from the Kick Sugar Summit. This was a summit that went on earlier in the year. There were amazing, amazing speakers, and I was so thankful to be chosen as one of the speakers. And I was interviewed by the lovely Florence Christophers, and she did a great job at interviewing me all about how our blood sugar and metabolic health is impacted by light, by our light environment, our frequency environment, and what a circadian rhythm is. So if you haven't listened to the podcast and you haven't heard this information, this is going to be a really great overview of how these things are interconnected and why it is so important to work on our light environment and our light hygiene, why it's so important to get outside and put your feet on the ground, the best times of day to get outside to get certain benefits from the sun. I will say that any time of day that you can get outside, there are benefits. So you don't have to overthink it too much. But there are specific times of day that you really want to optimize and maximize your time. And getting outside can really, really support our blood sugar and metabolic health. All of this information has also been added to the Blood Sugar Mastery course, because now I don't only teach about food and nutrition, but I've also added about light and circadian rhythm and how to use that to improve your blood sugar and metabolic health. And I've also added what we talked about in last week's podcast about our nervous system, about fight, flight, freeze, fawn, about our suppressed emotions and how those things are impacting our metabolic health. So if you listen to this episode, if you're wanting help with the food, with the light, with the nervous system, then Blood Sugar Mastery is the place for you. Enrollment is open now, and I am enrolling people for the winter cohort of the program, which is beginning November 9th. And last round of the program did fill up, and the holiday cohort of the program, it's going to finish before Christmas, but I absolutely love working with a cohort during the holiday season, where arguably it is the hardest time of the year. And many people struggle because they have all these holiday parties and they end up putting on all this weight and eating things they don't want to. Whereas my blood sugar mastery students, they're not perfect, because that's not allowed. No perfection is needed. No perfection is allowed in this program. But people are able to navigate the holiday season so much differently. They work through it, they feel empowered, they learn so much about themselves, and they navigate it and come out feeling better than when they first started. They don't feel like by January, oh my gosh, I need to clean things up and the gyms are going to be packed. It's a much different feeling. So if you're wanting support during this holiday season, if you don't want to just wait till January, if you are sick of struggling with chronically high blood sugar, with blood sugar crashes, with feeling not yourself, with feeling tired, with having cravings, not sleeping well, just relentless cravings and hunger, then Blood Sugar Mastery is the right spot for you. So you can certainly book a call with me. I will leave links in the show notes. But without any further ado, let's get into this interview that I did on the Kick Sugar Summit.
Welcome, everybody. Today with an interview with Danielle Hamilton. She goes by Danny, and she's a quantum and circadian health practitioner.
You
She's
got
also
it.
she's also a blood sugar expert. That's her thing. Metabolic health, blood sugars. She helps people to restore their metabolic health and balance their blood sugars through personalized circadian, seasonal, and quantum approach.
Mhm.
She personally reversed her own PCOS. She had hypoglycemia. She had acne. She was sick. She was miserable. And she was doing everything right. So lots and lots of progress. Made tons of transformation in her life, but there was still a little something missing. And that's when she decided to turn to nature. And she's become like this expert in the role of light and sunshine and water and seasonal rhythms. So all of that is brought her to a totally deeper level of healing, and she's here to talk about that with us today. I will let you know that she's the host of the podcast called Light Up Your Metabolism. And she also has an amazing, amazing program called Blood Sugar Mastery Program. Welcome, Danny.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much. So, wow, this is a whole. So, I interviewed you a few years back, and you were really
Mhm.
still quite, I would, more traditional metabolic health, all the important things that you still teach. But this is like a whole new level. So, tell us about how this unfolded for you.
Yeah, so I had clients who were doing everything that I was teaching, and they were still struggling with just chronically elevated blood sugar levels, high, dawn phenomenon, high blood sugar in the morning, plateaus, some people with really consistent blood sugar crashes, and just people I couldn't figure out what was happening because it sounded like they should have had more results for what was happening. And at the same time, I started to see some people I followed online starting to talk about sunlight and grounding. And I grew up on Long Island, New York, and we're very into being tan and all that stuff. But I had then heard after my childhood all this sort of negative press about the sun. And so, but it was something that I knew always made me feel better. And just learning things about light and about red light. We now have these red light therapy panels in our home. And so I was really intrigued, but I had this idea, well, surely light's important, but food's more important, right? Like food and exercise are the most important. And the more I learned, the more shocked I was because I just started developing this deeper understanding of the body and that we are actually the current model says that we operate on biochemistry, like reactions happening in the body, but biochemistry happens too slowly to explain what's happening in our body. So we actually work on with things like physics. So we actually work with more biophysics as well as things like electricity, photons of light, things like protons and electrons with, a positive charge, a negative charge. I'm hearing people talking about these things, and it's it's a deeper way of understanding how the body works and what to do to address our body on knowing that it is electric and knowing that we need a strong negative charge to maintain our overall health, knowing that our body is 99% water by molecular count. So if you lined up all the molecules of in your body, 99% of them are water. And so there's just some interesting things that I started learning. And then I started applying some of these things with my clients and myself. And the changes were just drastic. And it feels like it gave me this beautiful foundation on which to put information that I already knew, sort of how to contextualize it. So I know I'm speaking in generalities, but we'll definitely dive into the specifics. I just don't want to give anything away yet, but excited to share all these things with you. So yeah, I just realized that our body is driven by light. Light is the primary time giver to our body. I learned that one of the most stressful things for our body is to not know what time it is. And that kind of confused me at first. I was like, that doesn't sound too stressful. And then an image popped in my head of taking like a really long nap and you wake up and you're disoriented for a second. And you're like, oh my God, where am I? And it's a panic to figure out what time it is. What day is it? What am I doing? Why do we on a conscious level even panic? Because if we didn't know what time it was, we would not know what to be doing right now. So why am I not decorating for Christmas? Why am I not brushing my teeth and putting my pajamas on? Why am I not making coffee and breakfast right now? Because it's not time for that. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's time to be on this podcast interview. So we can only know what to do when we know what time it is. And so what runs our body, our mitochondria and everything in our body also needs to know what time it is, because we have hundreds and thousands of tasks to perform at every second of the day, and we need to organize those somehow. And as humans, we are adapted to the day-night cycle on our planet. And so we have this 24-hour rhythm because our planet has about a 24-hour day. And this doesn't only control our sleep-wake cycle, although that's one of the things that it controls, but it's also this idea of we are way better at digesting and metabolizing food early in the day. Whereas late in the day after the sun sets, I always say when the sun goes down, insulin clocks out, because it's like it doesn't work as well. So maybe some of your listeners have had a continuous glucose monitor on and they've seen that they've eaten something for breakfast with really minimal blood sugar response, but they eat maybe the same thing at night and they get a bigger blood sugar response after dark and get an even bigger and longer blood sugar response. So the other thing is that we're better at doing things like problem solving, articulating during the day. So I am going to be way better on this podcast, on this interview right now at 3 in the afternoon, as opposed to 3 in the morning, no matter how much coffee I drank, right? So we're better at doing certain things during the day, at certain times of day, or at night, like resting, repairing, healing, regenerating. All of those processes are best done at night. And so the body needs to take cues from the external environment to know, okay, release this hormone. Okay, turn off this gene. Okay, release this neurotransmitter. So we're receiving information from our external environment and sometimes internal as well to know what to do to organize everything. So it's kind of like the light in our environment is the primary time giver to our body. And so light actually acts like the conductor of the orchestra, making sure that the trombones come in on time and the clarinets, fade out at the right time, right? So same thing with our body. And so you can imagine that if light is the primary time giver to our body, then our modern lifestyles where we're indoors over 90% of the time, exposed to a lot of artificial light, not only from the lights, but also all of our screens, our devices. And these lights are actually throwing us off and telling our body it's a certain time when it's not, or, oh no, it's not nighttime. Just kidding. It's 12 in the afternoon. So what happens is that light is causing our body to run programs at the wrong time. And this is having devastating consequences on our metabolic health. And I'll start you off with one example of this is after dark, in our environment as early humans, let's say, we would have only had access to moon and starlight, which is extremely dim, even though it could feel a little bright. And also, we would have had exposure to firelight. But that firelight was also not very bright. It was also very low to the ground, and it's specific colors. It's mostly all of those warm fire tones, so like yellows, but mostly oranges and reds. We would not have had any source of blue light. So blue is in the sun, but it's not in firelight. It's really super, super dim in the moon. And so no blue light after dark. Yet our devices are very high in blue light. Our modern LED light bulbs have a strong peak of blue. That same blue that actually tells our body it's daytime. So blue light is not a bad thing, but it's really bad when we have it at the wrong time. So after the sun sets, when our body's not supposed to be receiving information like blue light, because blue light equals daytime, and we flip on our phone, we're scrolling on Instagram, or we're watching TV, or we just flip on the lights so we can see what we're doing. That's actually sending a signal to our body that it's daytime. And in the daytime, that blue light drives up blood sugar, insulin, and cortisol. Now, having those hormones rising during the day can be fine because we're moving around, we're doing things, and there can be a balance to it. But at night, it's very different. Those hormones are supposed to be, well, insulin and cortisol is supposed to be coming down so that melatonin can rise. So when we're raising these hormones and blood sugar at night, this is the worst time of day for this to happen. And so we could be eating the perfect diet, but our light environment could be sabotaging all our progress of stabilizing our blood sugar, of balancing our cortisol rhythms, of helping to have sensitivity to insulin, helping our body burn fat. We're sending the exact opposite message. So that's why you'll hear a lot of people talking about blocking blue light at night and stuff like that, because that's not hype. That's not a trend. That is something that we used to do, but our modern environment is kind of sabotaging. So that's, I mean, first tip out of the gate would be to start to mind your light environment at night, especially after the sun sets. We want to switch to things like incandescent light bulbs that have heat coming off of them. They're no longer banned, supposedly. You can find them online. And so I recommend switching out all your lights in your house to incandescents and then flipping off all those overhead lights at night, because we have receptors in our eyes and skin for overhead light. And so we don't want the overhead lights at night, and we don't want bright lights at night. We want them to be dim. So this light particularly has a nice dimmer on it, and it sort of mimics, it's a really nice soothing feeling as well. And some people use red lights at night. Himalayan salt lamps are great. Beeswax candles. In the winter, you can light your fireplace. So there's a lot of options. No one has to be in the dark. And please, like, don't just cut off all the lights, because your family will hit into stuff. They'll get mad. They'll be like, no, I don't want to do this. Make sure everyone can see, but start slowly switching over those lights. And that's a really good strategy. You can also there's settings to turn your phone red. So you can turn your phone screen red. You can get this thing called Iris Tech software to turn your computer screen red. You can get blue blocking glasses. But just a note with those, the clear ones do not work. They do not block the right frequency. So no matter what brand of clear glasses you have, they are not blocking that 420 nanometer blue light. They're blocking a blue violet light. So that's why the pen test, they send you like a little blue light pen, you're like, well, this works, but that's not the color we're talking about. That's not the damaging color. So the glasses you need at night would be orange or red toned to fully block all of the blue light at night. And you're going to find that when you do that, and there are even studies backing this up, that wearing your blue blockers for 1 month for 2 hours before bed resulted in a statistically significant improvement in blood sugar and HOMA-IR, which is a measure of insulin resistance. And it also helps to release melatonin, which drives healing, repair, and supports deep sleep. And so all of these things are essential if we want really good blood sugar and metabolic health. We want to be able to repair and heal and reduce inflammation and oxidation. And that's what melatonin does. And it's only secreted when we have enough darkness. So we need that darkness at night to get that melatonin to be able to sleep and repair. And that is going to lead to better blood sugar numbers in the morning. We've all had that experience of having a worse night of sleep, worse blood sugar numbers, cravings the next day, feeling hungry, snackish, tired, versus a really good night of sleep. And we have a much more balanced appetite and we have fewer cravings. Our blood sugar is better. So all of that just by blocking blue light at night. And now you know the science.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you. So for those of us who tend to sometimes work on computers at night,
Mhm.
is this like these glasses are for like a one-off and a pinch when you can't avoid it, or is it really sufficient to protect us from the damages of blue light at night? Like,
Yeah.
is it a pass if I have my glasses on, or should be just once in a while, Florence?
Okay, so having the glasses is a good first step, but I also recommend having your screen actually be red as well, because our skin has receptors for light, and blue light is damaging for our skin. It's not as obvious as UV light, which can burn us. It's more of a slow burn. It drives degradation of collagen. It penetrates our skin pretty deeply. And blue light is actually, it can cause age spots and is very damaging for our skin as well. But also, again, we have these cells that pick up on light that's external. And so it still does have some sort of impact on our circadian rhythm, but also the tasks that we're doing are, if we're scrolling, high dopamine tasks. If we're looking at social media, maybe there's cortisol and stress hormone surges and all of those things. And I will say, I am not perfect at this. This is something that I too struggle with. So I'm not here being like, oh, you can never use your phone at night. Like, I use app blockers to try to keep myself off of it. I try to find screen-free activities and I do journaling and try to do other things, reading a book or listening to a book so I'm not looking at a screen. And so I try to do other things at night. If it's something you can't avoid, really try to make sure the screen is red as well and use the glasses because that's going to give you the most help. But trying to, like, if you can brainstorm it and figure out how to do it at a different time, definitely doing screen work is better for daytime.
Got it. Interesting. So I've had the experience actually of being at computers for long stretches of time and my
Mhm.
face being hot and red, like I was being sunburnt. Like, and I've often thought, wow, there
Interesting.
must be radiation, but I didn't think it was about the light waves.
Yeah, I mean, it's so many things. The radiation, the non-native EMFs are also really dehydrating for your cells because they degrade this thing called exclusion zone water that's around your cells,
Oh,
and that causes a cellular dehydration. It's also it messes with the calcium channels in our body. It's just a stressor, and so EMFs are actually an invisible form of light. And so we really also want to think about turning off our Wi-Fi routers at night, not sleeping with phones plugged in close to us, especially if they are plugged in. When you charge a device, it emits a lot more radiation, non-native EMFs. And so you really don't want to be using any device while it's plugged in. And distance is your best friend when it comes to EMFs. And so if you have, like, for example, I have a big bedroom and then a bathroom off of the bedroom. And so I charge my phone in the bathroom. So it's like at least 25 feet away from me in another room. And the other thing is, if you need to have a phone close by, put it maybe at the foot of your bed, airplane mode if you can, and turn that off. Or if you need your kids to call you, maybe you turn off the internet, but you just have cellular data on. So you want to try to turn off as many features as possible, the Bluetooth and all that in general. And I mean, meanwhile, I'm sitting here with my phone close to me. It's like, this doesn't need to be close to me. So I could just put it an arm's length away. And even that is helpful. So we are not, like, let's set the expectation. We are not going to avoid EMFs. It is a just something that happens. I mean, I have a harmonizing necklace on. We can do things like distance ourselves, but these things they're increasing in frequency. There's antennas, there's Wi-Fi towers all over the place. And so there are things that we can do to mitigate and harmonize, but controlling our close environment is going to be really important. And if don't move into a place that's like really close to a giant tower if you can. And if you are very close and you can move, I would move. But otherwise, you want to think about turning off that Wi-Fi at night, reducing your use of these devices in the evening, and unplugging things that are close to your head, that are in your room. All of those things can really help promote better melatonin release at night for more of a restorative sleep.
if your phone is plugged in but on Wi-Fi, does that electrical current EMF problem still exist, or is the air
Yes, it still exists.
does?
And even on airplane mode, there is still some radiation that comes out. There's sort of these like bursts of EMFs that pop up on a meter. And so it's not zero EMFs when you turn it on airplane mode. I was pretty disappointed to hear that, but it's definitely way less than if, when your phone is on Wi-Fi and all the things and
Got it.
cellular data and all that. Yeah.
Mm, so interesting. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Tell us a bit more about light and how
hmm
we can leverage our understanding of light to support us with sugar cravings and metabolic issues.
Yeah, amazing. So we talked about night, and sometimes I like to start there. So then we're setting ourselves up at night to be able to wake up earlier because when we are blocking blue light at night and we have these glasses on, you start to get sleepy because the lack of blue light allows that melatonin to rise and then we get tired and fall asleep. And then that allows us to do the thing that we want to do in the morning, which is wake up and see the sunrise. This is one of the most important times of day, probably the most important time of day to be outside because seeing sunrise, you don't have to see the actual sun, but just being outside at sunrise supports syncing that circadian clock that we have inside our body with the sun's schedule. So when the sun comes over the horizon, that's the first time enough blue light has made it into our environment. And that blue light, which we were just talking about being bad, now it's really good because when it's from in the sun, it is good. But when man or humans take it out and extract it and isolate it and put it at the wrong time, that's when it becomes bad for us. But blue light in the morning is necessary to start our cortisol rise. And we need to have a cortisol rise. Talk to anyone who's got, full-blown adrenal fatigue. They have chronic fatigue. They have super flatlined cortisol. They're not doing well, right? And so we want cortisol to rise gently in the morning. And that's what the blue light from sunlight starts to do. It starts to increase in intensity in the sky, bringing up the cortisol nice and gently. And at the same time, we get a huge abundance of really powerful healing light called infrared light. Now, there's near, mid, and far infrared light, but we get all of those frequencies in the sun. And so infrared light actually appears even before the sun rises. And this light was one of the first lights that got me really like, oh my gosh, there's something to this light thing and blood sugar. Like it got me really paying attention. And so there's studies showing that red and infrared light, if you shine it on your body before you eat a meal, people have a reduced blood sugar response to their meals. And I was like, oh my gosh, how is that working? And so the idea is that infrared light makes your mitochondria work more efficiently. And so they can utilize glucose more effectively. And in plain English, that just means we burn through that blood sugar faster, so it lowers your blood sugar. So red and infrared light, not only are they extremely healing for your skin, that's why we're putting them in masks, we're standing in front of them. It's not only really healing for your skin and building collagen and reducing sun damage and reversing wrinkles and all those things, but it's also is insanely incredible for your metabolic health and your body. This infrared light makes about 95% of our melatonin, but not the pineal melatonin that we get at night. What's called subcellular melatonin, which is melatonin that our mitochondria make. So inside of the mitochondria, it makes this melatonin, which is a powerful antioxidant hormone. And why is that necessary? Well, our mitochondria, you may have heard of these as little energy factories in our cells, and there's hundreds and thousands or hundreds and thousands of them in every cell. And these energy factories, they release, just like a factory has like a smokestack and it releases sort of smog and pollutant and stuff into the air. Same thing with our mitochondria. They release something called reactive oxygen species, or ROS for short. And that oxidant, that's why we have antioxidants, because oxidation is like rusting. And so we don't want to rust from the inside. And so as the mitochondria are making energy, they also are giving out exhaust. And so that's why it's important to have this local melatonin to, as we're utilizing all this sugar and we're making energy in our cells, this is amazing. Now all our cells have energy to do all the functions that they need to do. Our liver can be a better liver, our brain could be a better brain, and we can have energy to take on the day. But they create a lot of exhaust as that's happening. But that's why that infrared light, it's already taking care of all that exhaust, and it's anti-oxidizing. So it's taking care of that, which also helps reduce inflammation, and it also helps to expand that exclusion zone. So I talked about that exclusion zone water. This is sort of a deeper quantum biological thing. So I'm going to just explain it real briefly and, not super scientifically, but basically we know that our mitochondria make ATP, right? They say that's the energy currency of the body. Well, there's also the mitochondria also make water, and they've called this water a byproduct or a waste product, but there's a new theory saying that actually the water is the energy currency, because when this is special water that our mitochondria make, what it does when it touches what's called a hydrophilic surface in our body, which just means a water loving surface in our body, that it splits into a negative and a positive charge. So this water here in my cup is, if we put pH test in here, litmus paper, it would come out as neutral, right? But the water in our body splits into a positive and negative charge. And so this negative zone is called the exclusion zone. And the reason they call it that is because it excludes everything from getting into it except for other electrons. So the electrons are negative, protons are positive. So it's sort of this electron zone. And to have a really strong, wide exclusion zone is extremely helpful for our health. Now, what do a positive and a negative next to each other act like? A battery, right? So all of a sudden, this is charged water. And now we're realizing, oh yeah, we are electric. We are making a battery of energy. And that exclusion zone, when it's nice and strong, it protects stuff like heavy metals from getting into our cells. So when this exclusion zone degrades, like from Wi-Fi, from not being outside enough, from lack of grounding, our bodies, that's a cellular dehydration, and our body can have a cell danger response, often leading to release of things like histamines and other sort of cell danger molecules. And so oftentimes one of the best remedies for histamine issues is going outside, grounding, because we're pulling in electrons. Those electrons go down the electron transport chain, create water in the mitochondria, and then infrared light, which helps to energize and expand that exclusion zone. And that can decrease histamine responses, which are often co-occurring in a lot of my people who have hypoglycemia issues. So I know that was a lot of words, but that's the infrared light is so powerful and really healing for our blood sugar, and is in high amounts at sunrise, along with that blue, which helps to make cortisol. And this also helps to create pregnenolone, which is a precursor hormone to all of our sex hormones. So a lot of people have just lowering amounts of sex hormones. And if we get more sunlight, we are going to be making more pregnenolone in order to have better sex hormone balance. So, I mean, I just like from one time of the day, it's like I'm sitting here rattling off 8 minutes worth of benefits. So it's really cool. And there's even more times a day, but I'll stop there and let you ask some questions.
Okay, that was so amazing. Thank you, Danny. So, I want you to tell me how long, is there any sort of ideal best
Mhm.
practice around how long we need to be in the early morning sunlight?
Yeah.
And what do you do when you live in a country like Canada where
Mhm.
7 months of the year I'm in the
Mhm.
dead of winter? There is no taking my boots off, there's no
Yep.
exposing my skin. I mean, for 3 months, it's,
Mhm.
like we are
Yeah.
from head to toe in toques and mitts and gloves and
Yeah.
jackets and stuff. So, what do we do in that circumstance?
Okay, great questions. These are real life questions. So the first thing is about the timing. So the sunrise, especially as you move away from the equator, the time of sunrise and the time of all these times of day I'm going to talk about always, they change quite often. So the further away from the equator you are, the more these times will change throughout the year. So there's an app that my friend made called My Circadian App, and that app will allow you to know when the sun is rising, when UVA is, if there's UVB, which makes vitamin D. So all these different times, including sunset and when you want to start turning on your red lights and blocking blue light. So this app is called My Circadian App. My code is Dani, HH, DANIHH. And so if you happen to need a code, but there is a free version of the app as well. So when you get outside at sunrise, and for you in the morning in the summers, it's going to be like insanely early, and then it goes to pretty late. And so one of the things is when it's late, you'll want to block blue light. So wear those orange glasses before the sun comes up, because you don't want to artificially start your circadian rhythm too early. You want to always be synced up with the sun. So sometimes parents are going to drop off and they're wearing orange glasses, dropping their kids off at school, and then the sun is rising on their way home and they take them off and crack the window a little. But ideally, we want to stay outside for sunrise as long as possible. This is one of those things with the infrared light where I've never heard of anyone having a negative reaction to the light at sunrise, because it's very, very, very healing. So we obviously know that someone with like your fair skin could not just go to Florida and be outside the whole time without just be like, oh, the more is better. It's not like that for all types of light, but sunrise light, yes. But the sunrise light doesn't last all day, but this infrared light is very healing. Ideally, we want to be outside for an hour in the morning, and not everyone can do that, and that's okay. If you go out for 15 minutes, that's better than 10 minutes. If you go out for 10 minutes, that's better than 5 minutes. If you go out for 2 minutes, that's better than no minutes. So we like to say, don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. You want to develop consistency, and the more your body needs to heal, the more time you will need outside. And so a little is good, but getting outside as often as possible is going to be better. And that's where we want to start to think about, we have to start brainstorming. Can I be doing this outside? So can I be bundled up outside and doing this? Can I be sweating outside and doing this? Normally, I'm in a bathing suit in my backyard, working in a mosquito tent here in Austin, Texas, pouring sweat because it's 110 degrees Fahrenheit, but I'm outside as often as I can be because I'm getting all of those benefits. Now, infrared light penetrates clothes. It penetrates our whole body. It penetrates our whole skull. So even when you're outside and you're bundled up in Canada in the winter, you are getting infrared light. Infrared light is available in all sunlight, all year round, all times of day. As long as the sun is up, you are getting infrared light and visible light. So you're getting the blue and the, Roy G. Biv, all the rainbow colors, right? So we could see. Now, there's two types. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Oh, I wanted to talk about the grounding as well. So there are grounding shoes. There are grounding shoes and boots that you can get so you can stand on, if it's wet snow and it's touching the ground, you can ground on that. You can also ground on natural surfaces, even cement, but like stone. You cannot ground on dead wood. Dead wood is not conductive, so if you have a deck, unfortunately, it doesn't work. But you can also ground with any part of your body because we are fully electric, right? Like if you stuck your finger in a socket, you'd get shocked. Not just if you stick your toes in there, you'd get shocked. So we conduct electricity. We are electric. So the second we pinch even or put our nose against a leaf of a tree that's rooted into the ground, we are soaking in electrons. And remember I said earlier, we need a strong negative charge to maintain optimal health. Electrons have a strong negative charge. And so the grounding helps to reduce inflammation. It helps to give energy to our cells because these electrons I didn't realize that food broke down into electrons, and that's how we get energy from food. It breaks down to electrons. But we also get electrons from stepping on the ground. We also get electrons from ultraviolet light hitting our skin. And we also get electrons through movement. So we're only supposed to get about a third of our energy from food, and the rest should be from sunlight, grounding, and movement. And so you can see how if you're inside all the time, you're not getting sunlight and grounding, and you are more sedentary, you will be more hungry. And if you get outside more and you do all those other things, you will be less hungry because your body is getting calorie-free, sugar-free energy from just touching a leaf. Like, it sounds too good to be true, but there's science, like, I'm backing this up. And so it's really helpful in that sense. It's also very anti-inflammatory, reduces pain, and grounding. I mean, I would say a minimum of an hour, but maybe spread out throughout the day, but as often as you can. And so again, can I take this Zoom meeting and make it a phone call and go for a walk while I'm on the call? Can I be, if I'm scrolling my phone, can I sit outside and scroll my phone, right? So we want to start thinking about, can I take my laptop and work outside if I work from home? Can I make a little setup outside for days where the weather is nicer? Can I get a heat lamp while I'm outside? Can I put out a fan while I'm outside? So we can adapt, and we can get a little uncomfortable. It's not going to be possible 365 days a year in most locations on Earth. And so we don't have to have those expectations. But when we can, we want to get outside.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would say just keep going. Is there anything more you would like to share?
Yeah. So the next time of day that's really important is the time when ultraviolet A or UVA light starts to come into the picture. This is usually sometime within 45 minutes to maybe 2 hours after sunrise, but it's basically when the sun gets to about 30 degrees, between 10 and 30 degrees in the sky. That's when UVA starts. And again, it's all in the My Circadian app. So the sun rises by me around close to 7 o'clock right now. It's pretty late, 6:57. And UVA starts for me at 7:48 a.m. But in the winter, UVA starts at like 9:30. So it will change again throughout the day. Now, UVA light is so amazing. So here are some of the benefits that you get from UVA light just from it striking your skin and your eyes. It helps to convert certain amino acids into things like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, so we can feel energized and happy and content, and we have motivation to take on our day. It also creates beta endorphins, so we feel good and we feel happy. It also helps to convert an amino acid called tyrosine into the usable thyroid hormones T3 and T4. So we get metabolic benefits as well. And if you think about it, if you are someone or know someone who has to take mood medications or thyroid medications, when do you usually have to take them? In the morning. They usually have to take them in the morning. And we could be getting help from this light. Ultraviolet A light also helps to increase nitric oxide, which helps blood flow and circulation, and that really can help with our insulin sensitivity. And the other thing is that UVA light also creates something called POMC, which is pro-opiomelanocortin, which is something in our body, a big peptide hormone that breaks down into like smaller pieces. I think about like Legos. And some of the things that are made from POMC include alpha, beta, and gamma MSH, which are melanocyte stimulating hormone. And in other words, we're making melanin in our skin, which is a really powerful, amazing pigment that gives us our hair and eye color and skin color. So melanin is really important, not only because it can actually, melanin is what, for humans and mammals, is akin to chlorophyll in plants. It converts the sun's light into energy for us. So building melanin in our skin, that's why I'm very tan, is an extremely powerful way to get energy in our body, and melanin can split the water molecule and create molecular hydrogen. And molecular hydrogen, if you've heard of hydrogen water, it's a very powerful antioxidant. It also happens to be the smallest element, so it can get through into our cells, into our mitochondria, and go where it's needed. It can also cross through things because it's so small and it acts as a wave. So this hydrogen can penetrate and permeate all different areas of our body, whereas a vitamin C, which is also an antioxidant, or a CoQ10, can't get into our cells. It can't get into our mitochondria. It's too big. So having melanin is like creating antioxidants in your body. This melanin also acts as sunscreen. So it allows you to stay out for longer amounts of time in the sun without getting burned and without damaging your skin. Now, dermatologists will have propaganda telling you that there's no such thing as a healthy tan, and I beg to differ. Because if I don't have a healthy tan, how am I going to go outside in UVB light, which is the only light that makes vitamin D? So all the light that I've talked about so far, you've noticed I haven't said anything about vitamin D because it's not available yet. Vitamin D is only able to be made from UVB light. And UVB comes after UVA, but not at all locations on Earth, not all times of year. So around the equator, between 33 degrees north and south, that's sort of like Atlanta, Georgia is about 33 degrees north. So that's kind of to give you an idea of roughly where that is, if you know where that is. That area near the equator gets UVB light all year round. So I'm in Austin, I can get UVB light all year round. Is it super strong in the winter? No, but I can still get some. But where you are in Canada, above 33 degrees, you lose UVB for a significant portion of the year. So it could be, obviously, it's going to be sometime in the winter, maybe bleeding a little into fall and spring. It's going to be different depending on your location. Now, UVB light, when we have UVB light, it does amazing things like improves our blood sugar, improves our insulin sensitivity, improves our leptin sensitivity, which regulates our hormones and our appetite and our thyroid and our fertility and how much fat we're able to burn. And also UVB light creates over 33 metabolites of vitamin D, things that help to burn fat, things that help to make sure we're not overdosing on vitamin D, things to help regulate our immune system, things to help grow our bones and strengthen our bones. So there's so many different metabolites of vitamin D, and we try to replace the sun with just one little pill. It's not the same, friends. I wish it were, but it's not. And there are meta-analyses showing that vitamin D supplements do not prevent type 2 diabetes. They do not have the same risk reduction for cancer or cardiovascular disease as the sun does. The sun has all of these benefits. It helps reduce and reverse type 2 diabetes. I had a client who spent 2 days at the pool this summer, and her fasting blood sugar is typically like 108, and it went down to 80 the day after the pool. And then the next day she spent about an hour and a half in the midday sun, and her blood sugar, again, fasting blood sugar, was 82. That's the optimal range. If you're outside of the US, just divide those numbers by 18 to get the millimoles. I apologize, I don't know them in my head. But there is something to this. There is definitely something to this. I have a client who, with the fasting blood sugar in the morning, it wasn't going down. It wasn't going down. It was stuck at like 104. And she spent 2 weeks seeing the sunrise, and her blood sugar was 82. So, I mean, this light stuff is like, you guys are, I feel like so many people are working so hard to, cut they're like, I'm not having a drop of carbohydrate. And it's like, it's not only about that. It's like, they're like, I'm killing myself in the gym. I'm like, yeah, well, are you waking up at 5 o'clock and doing a workout under blue lights and sending your cortisol through the roof and fasting and giving a prolonged stress signal to your body and running on stress hormones all morning, and then eating late at night because you didn't eat breakfast until late, and then you're eating when you're not insulin sensitive? So This is providing context for meal timing and for exercise timing and for outside timing. So ultraviolet B light helps us make vitamin D, all those metabolites, has all these profound benefits on our metabolic health, our immune health, our cardiovascular health, our brain health, our mood health, our bone health, our hormone health. So, and people are told to skip this light. They're told to do not go out in this light. And I say BS. I say, how did our ancestors survive? Were they all just dropping dead of skin cancer? No, they were not, because they were not, first of all, they were not having seed oils. Second of all, they weren't exposed to blue light at night, which I think is way more damaging than ultraviolet light. And the sun has built-in measures for healing. I said that infrared and red light helps to heal the skin. It helps reduce inflammation. The vitamin D you're getting from the sun is regulating your immune system. There's different things in UVB light that help with things like metastasis. It stops metastasis of cancer cells. So the sun is anti-cancer. The more time goes on and the more we're inside, the more sunscreen we're using, the higher melanoma rates are going. Outdoor workers have a lower chance of melanoma than indoor workers. Most melanomas are on places where the sun doesn't touch, like between toes and on the lower back, like where a bathing suit would be. And the increase of sunscreen use is also problematic because an SPF of 8 blocks 93% of our vitamin D. An SPF of 15 blocks about 90. So I said, I'm sorry, getting my numbers mixed up. SPF of 8 blocks about 90%. SPF of 15 blocks 93%, and SPF of 30 blocks 97 to 98% of our vitamin D. So if we just put on sunscreen all the time and then go out in the sun, we're blocking the vitamin D. And most sunscreen, if it's not a mineral-based sunscreen, it will have chemicals in it that are known carcinogens, or they break down to known carcinogens in UV light. And many of the ingredients are derived from petroleum. And please fact check me on this, because I want you to see with your own eyes that sunscreen is not this panacea that we have been told it is. And I would argue that it is actually doing more harm than good. And so I'm not suggesting you go out and burn yourself, because burning is not good either. But there is a method that I've created to help you know how to read the sun, how to get out in this early sun, prep your skin, make that melanin in UVA, and then get outside in UVB. And then we learn how much, okay, my skin took, okay, that was 10 minutes. How did I do? Okay, nothing much. Okay, I feel like I could go out for 10 more minutes. You go out for 10 more minutes. Oh, I'm starting to get a little itchy. I'm starting to get a little pink. Okay, I'll go in. Then we come back outside at sunset when that infrared light is really high again. It's like we're standing in front of a giant red light therapy panel. We're healing our skin. We're reducing inflammation. We're reducing oxidation that's happened from the UV. UV is like a hormetic stressor. We don't tell people don't exercise because it increases your inflammation and it's a stressor for your body. No, we say don't overdo it, but get the right amount that's pushing your body to adapt and heal. Same thing with UV light. If we don't get enough, we don't get enough adaptation. We don't get enough UV. We don't get enough vitamin D. But if we get too much, we get burned. So we need to look for that happy medium for our own bodies. We need to learn our own skin and how it reacts with the sun. And then when we've had enough, we seek shade. We go under an umbrella. We put a sun shirt on. We cover up. We put on a hat. The other thing is sunglasses increase your risk of sunburn because your skin's not getting the message that there's bright sun. And we're also blocking a lot of the important signals that we're getting from the sun from sunglasses. So these are some things that we can do to help reduce the reliance on sunscreen. I will say, if someone like you moved to Miami, Florida, you're very fair, you may need to just, no matter how dark you got, you may need to use sunscreen at some point during the day. So if we are living at a mismatch for our skin type, We may need to sometimes use some mineral sunscreen or cover up. But people who have darker skin, black and brown skin, you do not need sunscreen. You have melanin. And so you want to build up your tan. Same thing. Everyone can build a tan. I would say, except for people who maybe have, who are albino, because they don't have the ability to create the melanin. And I'm not sure what to do in that case. So I'm so sorry. But everyone else can build a tan, even if you're super pale. And then we heal ourselves with that sunset light, which is like a red light therapy panel, and we need darkness at night. So that comes full circle. That's a 5-step protocol. So we need the infrared in the morning to prep the skin in sunrise. We need UVA to build the sunscreen. UVB is where we're getting a monitored amount that's personalized to us to build a tan, not burn. Then we do the sunset for healing. And then we have darkness at night so we can repair. Our ancestors did this, and they were not dropping dead of skin cancer, and they were not leathery bags, right? That's the other thing. So I'm going to be 40 in a couple of months, and I don't look 40 even though I'm in the sun all the time, because I do this method of using lots and lots of infrared light all the time to keep healing my skin. I will not believe that something that gives life to all the plants and animals on earth is bad for me. I won't buy it. This is, this is God's medicine. This is nature. We are part of nature. We just need to learn to live in sync with nature so we're not hurt by it, right? And that doesn't mean everyone can get unlimited amounts of sun, because we've all moved all over the earth. But if we were all living at the latitudes of our ancestors, I know now we're also mixed races and all these things and mixed ethnicities. I have my mom's side is from Sweden, but my dad's side is from Italy. So I have like Italian skin, so I can get darker, right? But if I was living up in Sweden, I would be able to do okay there because my body's built for that, right? But there's a dangerous mismatch when we're having someone with very dark skin move away from the equator. For you, like I said, let's keep using this example of moving to Miami. You have the risk of getting a sunburn, but someone who has black, brown skin and moves up north to Canada, they have a risk of vitamin D deficiency, autoimmune disease, all sorts of, cancers, diabetes. And unfortunately, vitamin D supplements do not do what they don't replace the sun. So if you are falling into that category, I strongly recommend light therapy. So I recommend getting like a vitamin D lamp so you can actually get a little bit more than just the one, vitamin D, and be really mindful. If you can move. If you can take a vacation, take a vacation. But that's a serious health risk for people who are darker, who move further away from the equator. But we are, I just truly think that we can learn to live in harmony with nature and the seasons. And we can certainly talk about what to do in the winter when there's no sun. But yeah, those are my thoughts. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Super. Thank you so much, Danny. So I
Sure.
have two more questions then.
Sure.
If you could speak a little bit about how you talked about seed oils, but
Mhm.
sugar is a real problem for skin and sun, because sugar, when it's in our bloodstream and it's really high levels, is
Mhm.
like, how when we bake bread and the outside gets brown, like this is where we get moles, that's where we get freckles, that's where we get wrinkles, that's where we get
Mm.
sunspots, right? That it's the sugar on the surface of the skin meeting the heat of the sun. So I wasn't sure if you could
Mhm.
speak a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, so all of these practices really help to support lowering your blood sugar. So we know that eating your meals outside, you have a reduced blood sugar response to your meals. And one of the things that I really recommend is eating foods that are seasonal. And once again, this really makes a lot of sense because we would have only had access to seasonal foods. And so carbohydrates tend to only grow in warmer months. And so when we eat carbohydrates that are seasonal and local to our area, the sun helps us to metabolize those. And so UVB light, when it strikes the skin on the stomach, helps to change the gut bacteria to be better able to digest and metabolize simple sugars like fruits. So we are set up to have a different metabolism in the summer versus the winter. We should be more in a space of mTOR, muscle building, growth in the summer. And so I've been having fruit and seasonal carbohydrates all summer long. That doesn't mean bags of potato chips. That's not a seasonal carbohydrate, right? But I'm having watermelon that's growing here in Austin. I was having peaches, and now pears are coming into the picture, cherries. So I'm leaning into the seasonal foods, and my blood sugar is great. Like, it's crazy that my blood sugar is doing really well. Is it as flat as it normally is if I'm eating ketosis? No, it's not. But it doesn't mean, like, for a healthy person, we can have some excursions of our blood sugar. But, and then let me talk about the winter, and let me talk about if someone is not falling in the healthy category. So then in the winter, ideally, we want to lean more into the AMPK pathway. This is the pathway of things like autophagy, mitophagy, repair, fasting, ketosis, keto, carnivore. We want to think, because things weren't growing, right? Things are not growing. Right now, I can get anything I want in the grocery store any time of year, basically. So it's confusing us. We're thinking like, oh yeah, mangoes are in season in New York in December. Like, sure, I could, but they're grown in, in the southern hemisphere where it is summer. And so when we do that, food contains light information. And so if the light information coming in from outside does not match the light information in our food, there is confusion there and chaos. And our mitochondria are like, I am not understanding. I am getting mixed messages. And that causes inflammation. That causes a problem. So ideally, we want to get as seasonal and as local as possible. So, if I here in Austin, Texas, had to choose between, let's say, some fruit that was grown in Kentucky versus something that was grown in, Costa Rica, I would choose Kentucky, right? So I'm trying to get something closer and also something that could be grown in my area. So maybe blueberries, they were grown in Washington State, but they could grow here right now. So then I would have them, right? Don't get so crazy on this. Just start adding it to your list, thinking about, like, Google before you go to the store, what's in season right now? And so the AMPK pathway is more for winter. That's breaking down, that's working on that catabolic state. And what we want to do also in the winter is lean into cold and darkness. There are so many crossovers. So when we don't have vitamin D available, what do? Do we just collapse and die? No, we don't. But we have to embrace what's happening outside of our window. We have to embrace the cold and the darkness that comes, because darkness is the hormone of melatonin, right? So we make a lot of melatonin because of the darkness. And then the cold helps with so many things. It boosts this thing called adiponectin, which helps insulin sensitivity. It promotes fatty acid oxidation, which is burning fat, and it reduces inflammation. It improves insulin sensitivity, and it improves the cell's ability to take in glucose without using insulin. It also grows more mitochondria, so mitochondrial biogenesis. It activates brown fat, which increases our metabolic rate at rest and is amazing for our thyroid. It reduces inflammation, and it lowers fasting glucose. So all of these things I talked about in the sun, these things can be achieved in the winter through cold and through darkness. And so in the summer, we have things like I said, the building. So we have the body's going to grow, it's going to store energy, it's going to build muscle, it's going to make hormones. Whereas in the winter, when we have darkness and cold, it's going to break down, it's going to burn stored fuel and repair tissues. In the summer, we get vitamin D production, which influences 1,000 plus genes and metabolic pathways, versus the winter, we get melatonin production and we get deep mitochondrial repair, antioxidant protection. In the summer, we get fat burning via leptin and thyroid signaling, whereas brown fat thermogenesis is what triggers fat burning in the winter. In the summer, we get glucose uptake into muscles via insulin, versus the brown fat and the cold help the insulin, help the muscles pull in glucose in the winter. We also get microbiome diversity in the summer versus gut lining repair in the winter because of increased melatonin, which helps to heal and repair. And then we get hormones like testosterone, estrogen, thyroid via cholesterol metabolism in vitamin D in this UVB light, versus in the winter, we get balance and recycling hormones through repair cycles and detox pathways. So we can start to see that you don't necessarily need vitamin D in the winter. It may go down, but as long as you're getting cold and as long as you are embracing darkness and not flooding your environment with blue light, we get the benefit, the metabolic benefits that we need. So all of these things, if we do these strategies, we can lower our blood sugar, improve our insulin sensitivity, and then have that reduced risk of having skin issues due to the high blood sugar. And so if it's summer right now by you, and you are falling into the category of maybe insulin resistant, leptin resistant, high blood sugar, your body doesn't necessarily need another summer right now. And so what I do with my clients is I give them a winter, even though it's not in season, so we can catch up to the calendar, basically. And so I have my clients, like I just had a client reverse type 2 diabetes in 5 weeks. And so she started doing ketosis and all the sunlight and nervous system stuff and was able to reverse her type 2 diabetes. And we're going to get her caught up to the calendar soon, but she's going to probably stay in ketosis through this time, go through the winter, and then come out next spring as, you know, these things start to heal, because that might be the amount of time she needs to heal. So if you are, you know, if you have insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, you may not benefit from the seasonal fruit right now because your mitochondria don't know how to burn fat. There's too much inflammation. There's too much resistance to hormones like leptin and insulin, that your body is just, the mitochondria need deeper healing before we add carbs to the picture. So that's how I work with my clients, is that I kind of catch them up to what we're doing seasonally, and then you get the benefits of eating seasonally. So you don't have to be keto or low carb for the rest of your life unless you're managing some sort of, you know, epilepsy or something neurological where you need that. Most people don't have to be in that super low carb space forever and ever. And I would argue that I actually had some negative sort of ramifications of being too low carb too long. My hair started thinning, my T3 started to go low, and my, you know, just different things. I was holding on to more weight. And so I added carbs in this summer, and I'm going to be testing my T3, and my weight has stayed stable. Like I haven't put on weight because I'm eating carbs, and my hormones are good. I haven't broken out. I didn't get PCOS again like I used to have. And so I feel like I've come full circle because I've been really able to heal and not just be managing all the time. I think that's where we get stuck, is like, I do okay if I'm low carb or really, really like close to ketosis, but I can't add in a drop of carb or else my blood sugar goes crazy. That's, I'd argue, not deeply healed. That's a management. So that's what this stuff can allow you to do.
Oh, Danny, that's absolutely amazing. And I think it's incredibly hopeful for people who are in that boat of doing all the hard work of being low carb or maybe being keto, and don't want to do it for the rest of their lives, but they know that when they do go back to the carbs there is trouble. So this is a
Mhm.
way of being able to reset the entire body so we can flow with the seasons and the beautiful whole foods that come and go throughout whatever area of the world we live in.
Exactly. Well
Amazing.
said.
Beautiful. That was so incredible. Thank you. Is there any
Yeah.
words you would like to say before we wrap up today?
I just want to thank you for this opportunity, and I just want to encourage everyone to just get outside more. That's like getting outside any time of day, as long as it's safe. If there's lightning, maybe not a good time. If there's bears in your backyard, probably not. So be smart, use your head, but get out there as often as you can. And there's even benefits in the shade. We get lots of infrared light bouncing off of leaves. So there's always benefits to going outside, even if you can't see the sun directly. The more time you spend outside, the better your health will be, the more regulated your system will be. And I say the happier and more spiritually in tune you end up becoming, because you're just out amongst nature, and we get off these phones that are just numbing us, and we're, get bored, look at leaves, look at like watch the bugs. And it's there's so much there, there's so much beauty, and there's so much depth. And I think that so many of us are trying so hard, and we can actually do less and be healthier. And I think that many of us, especially women, have been in this role of doing, and trying, and fixing, and cutting, and adjusting, and modifying, where we just need to sit outside and receive. We need to receive the sun's light, receive the electrons from the earth, receive the frequency of the birds chirping overhead, and receive the sounds of the water running through a creek or the waves crashing in the ocean, and to just be. We're not in it enough. And so it's okay to slow down, but it doesn't always feel that way inside. If you like sit down on the couch, you kind of are like, I should be doing something. But when you're outside, it's just like, wow, I am doing something. And you're, looking around and feeling the sun. It makes you feel so good. Can reduce emotional eating behaviors as well, because we're getting endorphins, we're getting serotonin. We feel so much better. We feel more nourished, more connected. And I mean, the benefits go so beyond what I shared today, and they're honestly just endless. And so I hope that you all fall in love with the sun like I did.
Oh, thank you so much, Danny. How can people find you? What sort of
Mhm.
information would you like to share that way?
Yeah, sure. So feel free to follow me on Instagram if you're there. My handle is Danielle Hamilton Health. My podcast is Light Up Your Metabolism. And I have some programs, and one of them that just came out, it's called Get That D, to help you get vitamin D from the sun. And there's a whole food list, and I answer questions about sunscreen and sunglasses, because there are a couple times where I do recommend wearing sunglasses, things like if there's glare or something like that. And the 5-step method, I talk about how long to be in the sun for each skin type, so you can learn your Fitzpatrick skin type, so you know how well your skin tans or doesn't. We talk about if you moved around on the globe, and different times to get outside, and benefits of the sun beyond just vitamin D, and also a lot of information at the beginning about why we feel so afraid of the sun and why it's been so demonized. And so I try to make a thesis showing that, there's been a lot of misinformation, and there's a lot of people to benefit from us not being in touch with the sun and not getting the benefits of the sun. It's very lucrative for a lot of industries. And so sometimes we know we need to follow the money. So
Right.
that program is called Get That D. And then one more thing, I have these bracelets that I've been sharing on Instagram. And so the beads, these are UV reactive beads. And so when you go into UV light, the stronger the UV light, the darker these beads turn. They turn all different colors. And it's a really cool little companion to know, like, oh, if it's all white and the sun is shining, that means it's all infrared. There's no UV light. So you know that the sun is really healing at that time. So you can be out there and know, okay, I can get unlimited light right now, and then the bracelet will start to turn colors as the sun gets higher in the sky, and that when it's really pale, that's when you know it's a good time to start building melanin and start to build up some pigment. And also in the evening when it's really pale, you know that's also pretty healing for your skin. And then in the middle of the day, you can kind of see how strong is the sun. And, if these beads turn super dark, you know that that sun is really strong. And, there is a UV index on that app that I told you about. So I use that. I kind of look at both of them and kind of get to know like what the bracelet's doing, what the sun's doing, and how my skin's reacting. And this allows me to just learn myself so much better so I can know, okay, that's enough. Like I was at the beach. I went home to Long Island over the weekend, and I was at the beach 2 days in a row, and I didn't use any sunscreen because I was like, I want to practice my method. I want to learn my skin. This bracelet was dark, dark, dark the whole time. And so I was like, okay, that's enough. Like I'm going to put on a shirt and I'm going to put my hat on so my upper body is not getting any more sun. And then, or I can go in the shade and you could see, oh, what's happening in the shade, what's happening inside, what's happening behind windows. So it's really a fun tool. So I'm selling these as well. sunsenseuv.com is where you can grab a bracelet. And so these have been really fun to make as well.
What are they made of? What are those beads made of that
they're just, honestly, they're made of plastic, but they're UV reactive beads. And so, yeah, it looks like a cute little beaded bracelet, and then they just
gemstones or something.
Yeah, they don't look bad. I actually really like, I've just been wearing it all the time. And I also just made different sizes on the website. So, and I could certainly send you one. So I'd love to send you a bracelet so you can try it. Yeah.
That'd be super fun. That'd be amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, happy.
Passion, you're living proof that we just keep evolving and learning and growing and tweaking, but there's certain foundational things that you've talked about, like we just need to be on the whole foods, and now you're folding in circadian rhythms, you're folding in our relationship to our sun. And it's not a surprise that the sun got blamed for what sugar does to us, and seed oils and ultra processed foods.
And blue light, right? Which is like the light equivalent of junk food. It's like blue light. Like I have a post that says you've ditched artificial food. Now it's time to ditch the artificial light. And so it's like, just like it's like a bag of chips, you're sitting in front of the TV scrolling on your phone. It's like people are like, but I'm eating so well. And so I feel so bad for people because they're trying so hard, but they just don't know this information. So I hope this makes people's journey easier. There's some different things you need to learn. You don't have to be perfect with it. Control what you can. If you can't control, if you can't get outside, there's certain seasons of life. You're a busy mom of 3 young kids. It's okay. Get out there when you can. Start brainstorming. Start thinking, maybe we'll go on a vacation to the mountains instead of, taking a tour of a city or something like that. It's just, you just start thinking about it and adding it into your life, and it starts to build up, and yeah, it all adds up.
Wow. Thank you so much again, Danielle.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you loved that interview. And don't forget that at the end of this summit, I will pull everything together in a wrap-up webinar. It usually lasts about 3 hours, and I will share the core insights of all of our speakers and share practical next steps for you so you can make it actionable in your life. And as a final reminder that if you decide to donate to our documentary this year, which we're very, very grateful for because we're super excited about it, you will receive access to our super bundle, which has literally thousands of dollars of free gifts, some of the best interviews over the past 5 years on our summit, and credit in the film, and of course, our unending, enduring appreciation. See you in the next interview.